12.3, energy pathways in an ecosystem. An ecosystem is a community of living things and the environment that they live in. So it encompasses all of it. Ecosystems contain both living and non-living things. So living would be animals, plants, non-living would be water, maybe the soil, rocks, the air. All components of an ecosystem are related. So if one component is changed or altered in any way, the whole system is affected. So if we start messing with air quality, that's going to impact animals living within the ecosystem, and those animals will then impact everything else in the food chain that they're related to. A food chain shows the exchange of energy and matter from feeding in an ecosystem. So we think of something is eaten by something else, which is eaten by something else, which is eaten by something else. Every time something is eaten, there is an exchange of energy. The energy that is contained within A is transferred to B when they eat it. Just like we get energy from the food we eat, animals get energy from the food that they eat. There's also an exchange of matter. So there's an exchange of nutrients and chemicals and vitamins. Things to note within a food chain. A producer is an organism at the bottom of a food chain. So a producer would be A in this case. A consumer is an organism that either eats a producer or another consumer. So a consumer would be anybody kind of in here, maybe, including D. A decomposer is something that breaks down dead plants and animals. So when D dies, a decomposer returns it to the earth in its nutrients. Returning its chemical elements and nutrients back to the environment so that a producer can use it to grow again, completing the food chain. There's 3 different types of consumers. A primary consumer only eats plants. So a mouse, for instance. A secondary consumer is an animal that eats only animals that eat plants. So because a mouse only eats plants and it's a primary consumer, something that eats a mouse, like a disgusting snake here, would be considered a secondary consumer. A tertiary consumer is something that only eats animals that ate animals. So just steps within the food chain. We still see that we have a decomposer and we have our producers. A food web is a little bit more helpful because very few consumers eat only one type of food. So when we draw a chain implying that A is eaten only by B and eaten only by C and eaten only by D, we're implying that C only eats B. So that's like saying I only eat cucumbers, which is ridiculous because if I only ate cucumbers, that wouldn't be a very balanced diet for me. So other animals, of course, eat multiple things as well. So a food web is a more complete model showing how energy moves within an ecosystem, and the way that it does that is that it shows the different organisms that something might eat. So, for instance, this squirrel here is eaten by a badger, a snake, and an eagle. As well, this wolf eats, looks like a lizard, and deer. So we would need to consider that a wolf's diet is not just one of these things. Okay, so that things get eaten by multiple predators, and predators eat multiple things. We can create a food chain from a food web, just following the pathway. So for instance, I'm going to follow this one. So I'll start with, I guess these are berries, are eaten by a squirrel, which is eaten by a badger. So we're going this way. The badger looks like it eats snakes and lizards, which is disgusting. And so that's the end of the food chain. It doesn't look like it is eaten by anything else here. We could do one more if you'd like. Just following the cactus here. So the cactus is eaten by the ants, which are eaten by bats. And it doesn't show bats being eaten by anything else, so that's the end of that one as well. So just breaking it down into its components, we can bring a food web back to a food chain. There's some practice in your textbook, page 244 and 252, just to make sure that you got a little bit of exposure to different questions there.